20.
Yeah.
Well, what a day. What a day. We're meeting on Monday, which is not normal for us. Let's see what happens. We're gonna go ahead and hit the intro and then we'll get talking. My name is Judah Buddha. I'm here with It's Jared, the absolute stud. We were just talking a little bit about elections. Jared, you're the first person I've ever heard talk about that it's a real possibility that it could be a tie tomorrow. And that's why we're meeting tonight.
Yeah. So if anyone wants any like fun, terrifying little election trivia, like basically if you take the 2016 electoral map, Trump won 306 electoral votes, Clinton won 232. You need 270 to win. So if everything on the map stayed the same, except Joe Biden pulled away Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. Michigan and Wisconsin, he's
already ahead by like 5.
Supposedly, if we believe the polls, and we know the polls were off in actually each of the last 2 elections, they were off. Yeah. We just didn't really pay attention to it in 2012 because Obama, it didn't change the outcome. Obama just won by more than what he was expected to. So they've been off by a handful of points each time. But so if that happened, if Biden pulled away those 3 states only, that is 37 electoral votes, 16 from Michigan, 10 from Wisconsin, 11 in Arizona. Subtract 37 from 306, you get 269. Add 37 to 232, you get 269. You could have a tie in the Electoral College, and it just with everything else that's happened in 2020, it just feels like that's going to be the next insane bonkers thing that happens.
Oh my goodness. I hadn't even imagined that scenario till you brought it up. That's amazing. And if you said if that happens, then the House chooses the president, and
so I would have to look this up again. I didn't really look in depth to it because basically I think I just arrived at the possibility that, there could very realistically be a tie, and then my brain couldn't really handle anything else. But I did kind of look it up, and apparently the way it's supposed to work is that the House votes on and chooses the president, the House of Representatives, and then the Senate would choose the vice president. And so since you have and I'm not positive about this part, but I think so. You could have like President Joe Biden and Vice President Mike Pence, which is like the makings of a bad like Odd Couple movie.
I would love that. What if they chose Trump as the vice president?
Yeah, but that would never work. Like him, he would never be willing to take like the second position, in charge. So that would be even of course far more insane. But he would never be willing to do that, even if they were willing to pick him. So yeah.
Well, and I hate to bring politics into this, but I to bring it back to football, I heard not Mike Silver. What's his name? Nate Silver talking about odds, and he was saying, you guys don't understand, when I say there's a 10% chance for Trump to win, that's not insignificant. And
right,
and my mind immediately went to, because he started in sports, Nate Silver did.
Okay.
And
right.
What I went to, I thought about like when when Yahoo puts up you have 10% to win, and how many times does that happen? That happens a lot,
right? Right. Yeah. And I mean, we were talking before we got on here, like I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. There's a lot of things that I'm willing to predict based on, I mean, that's what we do is we basically give out predictions here for fantasy football about what's most likely to happen. But with that, it's, it's very performance based. It's much more quantifiable. And compared to voting in elections to a certain extent these days, it is. But at the same time, you're talking about athlete performances, and you've got some metrics you can use with voters and all the variables this year from COVID to everything else. We are just in the craziest year of all time, and so you don't know what people are voting based on. So there's almost no scenario where I would be shocked by it. So
no, and this is like so Jared and I go kind of far back of like me making wild predictions, him laughing at me, and then me making wild predictions and me laughing at him. And this is usually me making like absolute statements about what's going to happen, and right. Jared either just saying you're a moron, kind of like we usually do it here on the show. Right. But this year I have no idea.
Right.
I have no idea. Like, and I'm somebody who, even if I had an inkling, would just run with it. You know me. I do the same with politics as I do here on, with fantasy football. But I don't even have an inkling. I just don't know.
Right.
So yeah, it's wild. And I think it will have an impact on football in the sense that if things get wild, I think we're much less likely to see, just if the nation in general, either way, if the nation in general gets crazy, we probably will have less chance of seeing football. Well, look who's just showed up. We have a third member with us. Hey, Jay Herschel. The kid.
Yeah, I'm going to be 100% honest. I didn't have my phone on me, and I forgot that we were doing it tonight because I forgot the election was tomorrow. So
I kind of did too. I'll be honest. Jared texted me, and I was like, oh yeah. Okay, so apart from the election, let's move on to football because we have a crazy game going on right now, and I don't mean crazy as in a fun game. I mean sort of a boring game with very little fantasy implication, at least to the positive. Jared, have you been keeping up with the game? I see you looking over every now and then. What's going on?
Yeah, the Giants are up 14-6 on the Bucks. Yeah, that's what's happening. So I don't know. I don't know. And it is red versus blue. It's red versus blue tonight. Bucks are in red. Giants are in blue. Giants have the early lead, so I don't know. I don't know if this is, a reflection or if anything, but anyway.
Well, I need 100 points from Rojo. Would you guys do anything tonight?
Yeah, I need go ahead.
Yeah, you got it.
I need 10.5 from Mike Evans. He's at 4.2 right now. I need 6.4 more points from him. Wait, no, I'm sorry. 6.2 more points from him, assuming that there's no stat corrections or anything. So I actually don't really mind that the Giants are leading because I need Tampa to be throwing some more in the second half, and preferably if Mike Evans could catch a long one, that would be, or a touchdown, that'd be pretty great because I have a game. It's $100 league. My opponent is done. He has 63.82 points, and I have 57.72 right now. That's how garbage our lineups were.
What happened?
And we are let's see. I'm the number 3 team in the league, and he's the number 4 team in the league. And
What amalgamation of bye weeks and injuries led to that?
So I had I'll just try to sum it up quickly here, because I'm sure people don't really care about my lineup in this one league, but I had DJ Moore, AJ Green, Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor, and Carson Wentz, who I thought would carve up the Cowboys, had 10 points, and the other guy, it was just equally crappy, so yeah.
Yes.
I need Slayton to not get 9 points tonight. I need him to have a Darius Slayton kind of game, and he's coming off of 2 good games, so that means he's not going to do well tonight. So hopefully that holds true, and he just stops. Tampa Bay's pass defense wakes up, because I need to win. I would really like to win this one game.
Well, this has been the weekend of broken dreams for most people. For some, their dreams were made. If you had Dalvin Cook, if you had Wilson, who else? There were a few people. DK, DK blew up. And if you had Mahomes, yes, true, you did pretty well. If you had Adams. So I had a little bit of Mahomes and Adams in a few leagues, and that did pretty well. But man, the rest of my leagues, I mean, pretty much everybody other than those 4 players,
Yeah, that like I kept waiting to see. I didn't draft Lamar in any leagues. But I've been waiting to see, like, okay, has this been a fluke? Is he going to turn it on? But now, like, out of like 7 weeks, he's been at like 17 or less in 4 out of 7.
Tell me about it. Yes, where I don't have Mahomes, I have Lamar, and luckily, most of my $100 leagues are Mahomes. But some of my favorite ones, like the listener league, I've got Lamar, and it's just so frustrating. I eked out a win in my church league with Lamar, thanks to Ayuk getting a sweet little touchdown.
Nice.
But man, all right. Well, we have some bad news. We have Kittle going down for the rest of the year. That
it looks like,
my heart.
Yeah, I mean, they say
8 weeks.
They say 8 weeks. That would take him through the end of the fantasy season, unless he happens to come back like a week early or something like that. But I can't imagine that it's going to be more than, I don't think he's going to come back like 2 weeks early and make it for the fantasy playoffs or something. So,
yeah, I mean, and I don't see, like, it's going to be difficult for me to get to the playoffs without him. Because with the places I took him, I took 2. I usually took 2. I did the 2 tight end experiment, and that turned out to be a bad idea, I think.
Well,
but it does. But at least I do have like a backup now, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, like in the Roto League, you have Kelsey, so I mean, you're not hurt at tight end, and there's typically a lot more options to plug in at flex or
That's true.
So.
But still, it hurts. All right. Well, was there any of yes? And Galladay is out.
Galladay's
who knows how long.
Yeah.
It looks like they went out and got who was it? Some wide receiver. They've been so the Lions. Who is the wide receiver for? He's like a slot receiver.
Sanu.
Yeah, Sanu. So I don't know if they're going to pick him up, but they were looking at him. So that makes me a little worried about Galladay. He hasn't. I don't feel like he's been healthy all season.
Right.
So, man, this is rough. And then I see that Michael Thomas might not even play next week as well. What's going on here?
I hadn't seen that. I mean, I only have him in one league, but I've just been like every week thinking like, okay, this is the week Michael Thomas comes back. Okay, this is the week Michael Thomas comes back. No.
Oh. Is there any other news we need to talk about?
Well, in my 4 out of 7 leagues, I get McCaffrey back. So I'm very excited for next week because a lot of my playoff pushes go into high gear next week. So I'm excited about that.
I'm really curious to see how they are going to use Mike Davis with McCaffrey because, I mean, as well as Davis has played and the fact that they aren't doing, I mean, what is Carolina's record now?
Like 3 and
4
4 and 3, something like that.
Yeah, 4 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, they're like middle of the pack. They're probably not a championship.
3 and 5. 3 and 5.
3 and 5.
3 and 5.
Whoa.
Okay,
After
so
losing to Atlanta.
yeah, so I mean, it's not like they're a juggernaut team just looking to push for the playoffs. So I'm really curious to see how much Mike Davis eats into McCaffrey's carries going forward.
True.
So now that I'm in North Carolina, I can listen to North Carolina like sports radio because like Bears sports radio is like bottom of the barrel.
What?
Sorry, but I don't know. Like I used to try to listen to it, and it's just for fantasy. There really wasn't a lot of players.
Well, yeah, because it's only our defense has carried us for so many years. There isn't anything to talk about when it comes to fantasy.
Exactly. Okay. So I started listening here, and they keep talking about McCaffrey being a decoy. How they're bringing him back as a decoy here in North Carolina. I don't know how much credence to give that, but I thought that was interesting. I was like, I hadn't thought of that. They're talking about they want to protect him. They don't want to give him as many carries. This their future, it's their franchise. These are the words I keep hearing. I don't know.
Well, I think I saw something. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I'd have to double check and look and see. But I think I saw something that said like he wasn't even guaranteed for week 9.
I saw that.
Yeah. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think people are assuming he's coming back week 9, but and I think he will. I don't think he is going to come back at full strength. Just a feeling. All right. Well, that's pretty much all the news. Are you guys anybody picking up Dwelly? The tight end for the 49ers. He actually did pretty well in Kittle's absence.
So here's the complicating factor to that is I think Jordan Reed is actually going to be back this week.
Oh man.
I'll have to double check that. But I mean, so he's, Jordan Reed will probably only be there
for a game
for 1 to 2 weeks. Right. But then you're kind of stuck with, do you want to risk it on Jordan Reed? Do you want to go pick up Dwelly for 2 weeks later when Reed gets hurt again? Or do you just say, screw it and go pick up someone else that you can play right away,
Well, one of the things I was able to do would be, of course, with in the Yahoo leagues with Washington being on a bye, I was able to go pick up Logan Thomas in a lot of my my leagues where I had Kittle. So that I actually went and I picked up Washington, the defense, because I think they're playing. Who are they playing? They're playing somebody easy next week, and I picked up Logan Thomas. I don't know if that's going to be obviously it's not going to be a 1-to-1 substitution there, but
they get the Giants, the Giants that are now beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Well, I tell you, like who I picked up, and I wish I had done this in more leagues. But they're only still 16% rostered. Is the Miami defense, and so I picked them up, and they gave me 23 points this week. They've over the last 3 weeks they've had 12, 15, and 23. And then 2 weeks prior to that first, the first one I was talking about, they had 12 against Jacksonville. So really, they've had 3 bad games where they only had a handful of points. 2 of those 3 were against Buffalo and Seattle, pretty good offenses. So Miami's looking like a pretty stout
Yeah.
defense, and they get
they're available in almost all my leagues.
Yeah, and they get some, some good matchups, against the Broncos, the Jets, New England in Week 15 at home could be a good matchup for them. So their coach is a defensive coordinator, and
That's true.
or was a defensive coordinator, and it looks like he's kind of gotten that defense into shape. So
that's a good call. And dude, can I say that your Fulgham call was mwah. I mean, whoever picked him up, I picked him up in one league after you said that. He's been solid, you know, and I think he's going to continue to be solid.
I think he is. Yeah, I hated in our listeners league. I hated to trade him away, but I felt like getting at the time, like getting Galladay and AJ Brown back at the end of that deal. I was like, that's a pretty good deal. And then Galladay gets hurt,
That's
so
right.
Okay.
John Brown did okay though this week, right?
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
Yeah, he was okay. Corey Davis though.
Yeah,
Corey
popped off.
Corey Davis had a really good, and Davis is another guy that I've picked up in a lot of leagues because he's quietly having a very good season. I mean, he's had double digits in every game except, and now he missed 2 games and they've had a bye already. But, double digits, I think I mentioned this Saturday, he's had double digits in every game except 9.4 against Minnesota. So he's getting, he's getting targets. He's not always getting a ton of yards, but he's been over 100 yards twice. He's got 3 touchdowns. Good for him because this is, the final year, I think, of his deal. So, he's potentially, got an opportunity
to
make himself some money. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got a lot of stuff in the chat already. I want to say that if you want to keep up with news, I actually, what do you think, AJ? I do a pretty good job of in the Discord.
Oh yeah.
Putting up news I'll tell you what, Jonathan Buster, and between you two and Jonathan Buster, I get tweets. I mean, not tweets. They usually are tweets, but I get messages all the time about news, and I just send it right over to our Discord, and we have a little channel called News, and I've been pretty quick there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put our Discord in the chat if you want to join us. Maybe because a couple of you we've been talking about certain things that have been going on. You got in the chat a little bit there, AJ.
Yep.
It's been kind of fun. Anthony and some of I don't know who all the people are.
Drew and there's Claudio, I think, so far.
Okay, I see. So yeah, it's kind of fun. We just talked about things. I got to do cry emojis about Kittle and talk about different trade options that are coming up and that kind of thing. So if there's no other news, should we move on?
I think that's the highlights.
Yeah.
Jimmy G's hurt too. If anyone was relying on Jimmy G in a deep 2 quarterback league or something.
AJ, you were kind of flirting with that idea, right?
I have him as a backup in Rotohackers for Stafford just for the bye week because I think he got someone like Miami or something that week. So now that idea might just be completely down the drain. So,
it is. You know what's so sad is not sad. Well, okay, it is kind of sad. Jimmy's birthday was yesterday. And so I'm friends on Facebook with his cousin, and she doesn't know anything about football. She's like, "Hey Jimmy, hope you have the best day of your life." Blah blah blah. It's like happy birthday. No. And I was like, this is probably a really tough time for him because I'm seeing articles about how like Jimmy's out of the league. He's he might not ever play for anybody again if he can't recuperate from this. And I'm like,
I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet that said something like, if Jimmy G wasn't so handsome, who would he be? And Andy Barron's just replied with a photo of Blake Bortles.
Oh my!
This has got to be a rough birthday for Jimmy Polo.
No.
I really feel bad for
It's
him.
my EIU
I think
guy.
he can rebound. Huh?
That's my Eastern Illinois guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He's a good
right.
guy.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he's from right where we used to live, or I used to live Palatine. He was a Palatine Pirate. Well, we'll see how he does. I think he can rebound. He's got some chops. Maybe. Okay, so in the chat, we already got Thomas H firing away. What happened to Jonathan Taylor? And who in the world is Jordan? Well, if you were AJ left us. If Thomas, if you were in our Discord, you would have seen pretty early on. I posted a little tweet that said he had ankle problems, and as our resident Colts guy, Jared, what happened there? Does he really have an ankle thing, or what's going on?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I need to read up more on the beat writers' columns and stuff from the game. I don't know. Taylor has it's been a problem with like basically just not like breaking tackles or forcing missed tackles and stuff like that. And you never know. Like the Colts are just always weird about injuries, like, going back to Andrew Luck and beyond. It's hard to really know what's going on there. T.Y. Hilton's always banged up somehow. Michael Pittman went down. Paris Campbell went down. It's just this never ending. The Colts are kind of like the real, like a microcosm of what's happened across the NFL, except it's just always like that with the Colts. So I really don't know what it is. I'm going to try to read up some more on it.
Okay, let us know
tonight and tomorrow. Yeah, because Wilkins could potentially be a good pickup. You look at what he and Naheem Hines are doing in that offense. It's what Jonathan Taylor should be doing. So
well, that's the thing is Jonathan. I have this bet with our nemesis, what we call him, our antagonist in the chat, Jonathan Buster, and in the trade world, in our listener league, we have this bet. I have under 1,000 yards for Jonathan Taylor. From the beginning, I thought this guy was a fraud, but I didn't think he was this much. Like, I don't know. I have come to think that he is quite a fraud, especially my love. I think it has more to do with my man crush on Naheem Hines. Watching him do flips in the end zone. How can you not have?
Yeah.
Come on. This guy is amazing, right? I just want to see him do that flip into the end zone, like where it makes, instead of a celebration, flips over a defender.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I will see what happens with Taylor. I'm surprised. I thought he would be doing better than this. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. If you find something out, send me anything you find.
Yeah.
I'll send it on to the Discord too. What do you think, AJ?
God, Jonathan Taylor is starting to really, really frustrate me a lot. If he's been dealing with ankle injuries for like multiple weeks, then like Jared said with the Colts, and it's just their unwillingness to let us know about this kind of stuff. I remember you put it on the Discord, Judah, and I think I put something like, now they let us know. So yeah, I think Wilkins and Naeem should be really interesting, but I do always want to not fall into the trap of, I have the running back that just went down, I should automatically pick up his backup, because just because the starter does well in the offense doesn't necessarily mean the backup will. But in this case, after the showing that the two of them put on, I think they're pretty high waiver pickups for me.
Wilkins was he was a waiver wire pickup last year. He was I remember somebody that, people had high hopes for. Naheem Hines has always had skill, but people always saw him more as a pass catcher, and he continues to be a pass catcher back.
He's more of a Jonathan Williams, James White type guy.
Jonathan Williams. Again
Jonathan
with
Wood, the dude for the Packers, whatever his name is.
Yes, Jamal Williams. See, I did that
Jamal
same
Williams,
thing on Saturday. Okay, let's keep going. Hey guys, should I trade Boyd, Rojo, and Shepard for Gurley and Ridley? I would say that's probably a do it, right? Do it now.
That's tough. Well, here's the problem with it.
Boyd, right?
Well, no, the problem is, well, yeah, Boyd. I mean, I would hate to give up Boyd. I mean, but if you're getting a healthy Ridley, that's fine. The problem is, he's going to miss, they've got I think their bye, plus he's going to miss a game. Gurley is kind of at the end of his like really nice stretch of schedule where Matthew Berry was tweeting after the first game against Carolina, like, oh, now's a great time to sell high on Gurley, or maybe I don't know if it's Green Bay or is one of those teams. I'm like, well, he's got like Carolina and Detroit and Carolina again. And, he had 21 points against Detroit 2 weeks ago. He just had 10.6 against Carolina. But now his schedule gets tough. He's got Denver, which is I think the toughest run defense. Then he's got a bye. Then he's at New Orleans, gets Vegas, at New Orleans again. He gets Tampa in week 15, gets Kansas City in week 16, which could, the Falcons could be behind and throwing. I don't like Gurley the rest of the season, and Ridley is hurt. So while I like the idea of getting rid of Rojo and Shepard, and getting Ridley, like, Boyd right now is probably the best guy in that trade, for at least for the next few weeks. So if you've got a comfortable lead, if you're out, if your team is going to be like 6-2 or something like that, and you think you can weather it to have maybe, a healthy Ridley and Gurley later on, maybe do the deal. But if you're like fighting for a playoff spot now, like it gets harder for me to justify that trade.
How is Rojo doing tonight? Have you guys been watching?
He's like splitting
carries,
yeah, splitting with Fournette, and neither one of them, like Fournette has 4 carries for 18 yards. Rojo has 5 carries for 18 yards. Fournette's caught 3 passes for 19 and Rojo's caught 2 for 6. So Fournette's having the better night.
Also got to throw in there, Rojo's fumbled once, which led to a Giants touchdown. So,
well, what do you think, AJ? Does this give you any? I have to say, Boyd. I just picked up Boyd in trade, and I was a little worried, but he showed up this week. He showed up every week. He seems to be the star of that team. Now that team's not great, but he's the star.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, the Bengals are world-class talents, but let's give them credit. Their wide receiving core has been kind of showing up every single week. Boyd Higgins is a nice number 2. AJ Green is a target hog, at least, even if he isn't getting touchdowns. And Mixon, when he's healthy, is great. And Giovanni Bernard in his absence has been really good. So with the exception of the offensive line, the Bengals offense actually hasn't been bad. I wouldn't do the trade because Burrow's averaging like 41 passes a game, and a lot of those are going to Boyd, and he's been getting a lot of touchdowns. And look, I have Gurley in a decent amount of leagues. It is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with that guy. One week he gets you 25 and 2 touchdowns. The other week, Brian Hill runs the ball 10 times for 48 yards or whatever. So, and it's the Ridley injury that makes me say no to this, because getting rid of Rojo, I'm all for right now. I'm doing it in one league. Shepard is going to be iffy in a Giants offense that can't sustain 3 receivers consistently. But Tyler Boyd, like you guys said, between Gurley and Ridley, he's definitely the best option out of the 3, especially for the foreseeable future. So I would not do it right now. I need someone else instead of Gurley, I think, is the main thing, someone more consistent.
Well, there you have it. I think I probably wouldn't do it either. I love Ridley though. I have a man crush on Ridley.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to pass this up.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to the record. Like if you're in a great spot, if you're 7-1, 6-2, something, probably do it because you can probably ride it out to get Ridley back, and Gurley, maybe's a better option than Rojo. But if not, then it's tough to do that right now.
Yeah. All right. Thomas H says, can we petition the NFL to ban the NFC East teams from playing primetime games for the rest of the season? I don't know. That was kind of an interesting game last night.
This has to just be tied into the markets they play in. The New York market and the Philly market and the number of viewers, because there is no good reason for those games to be in prime time beyond just having some sort of twisted desire to see, bad football teams.
Can't look away from a train wreck type thing.
Right.
Oh, man. DiNucci was terrible.
This is the nice part about college football, because they don't always schedule their future games ahead of time, especially their primetime ones like the 2:30 game or the 6:30 game. They'll just set the day and not the time. So then they actually get to see what teams are top 10 pretty often, and they'll be able to slate those in whenever, instead of telling Jerry Jones, yeah, we'll let you have 7 Sunday night football games, and then Dak gets injured.
Well, but they can, I don't know all the rules, but they can flex those games out of Sunday night. Like they flexed out the Bucks Raiders game from a couple of weeks ago, because
was that due to COVID though?
It was. They were afraid, but as far as I know, like there's no, as far as I know, there's no qualifiers of like, well, it has to be because of COVID or whatever. I think they can just do it whenever they want, but they keep those NFC East games in there because they know like the size of the market, is much better for something like them as opposed to like a Chargers, or, even though the Chargers are in LA, nobody cares about the Chargers. So, and if you had like Chargers, Colts or something like that. So,
yeah. Also, if you're interested in the NFC East, I'm starting a petition, #Rams and Cards for the East. I petition we move the 2 of them and swap them with Giants Eagles for the rest of the season. Just into the it doesn't seem fair to me that you've got 4 teams that all have winning records in the NFC West, and the NFC East is abysmal. I say we switch the Rams and Cardinals, move them to the East just for 1 year, and move the Eagles and Giants to the West, because none of the East teams deserve a playoff spot.
Well, that would just be kind of like going back to some early 90s stuff, because the Falcons, and we were not even limiting this to one sport, because in baseball, the Braves used to play in the NL West with the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants. And I'm not sure if I'm leaving anybody else out there, but those 3. And then in football, the Falcons used to play in that NFC West too, which was just the most bizarre thing. You literally have a state touching the Atlantic Ocean playing in the NFC West, so and you would get these games, especially like in baseball, where just entire series, like they would have a series with like the Dodgers and then at the Padres and then at the Giants, where, games didn't start on the East Coast till 10 p.m., for, just weeks at a time. Wasn't as bad with the Falcons, but anyway, it's not unprecedented. It would be ridiculous now to go back to that, but like, just not even quite 30 years ago, we were doing that. So,
yeah.
We may be able to get that going. All right, but Inceptivus says, hey, thanks for being in the chat, by the way, buddy. Badette, or whatever. Thoughts on AB's production with TB? Well, looks like they really need him after tonight. I saw one clip. I was just kind of watching and all I saw was the GOAT, Brady, just pounding his helmet on his, so frustrated. What's going on, Jared? Are you watching the game? What is the offensive line letting him down? What's going on?
I'm just able to catch bits and pieces of it here. It just seems like I don't know. I think some of it is Tom Brady, but it's hard to tell. Like if he's just so used to being in the same system and having the same players for years and years that the timing is all down and the timing is not there, and that's what's throwing it off. Because like we both saw a little while ago, I'm needing more points from Mike Evans here. I need Mike Evans to get like 6.5 more points, but like Mike Evans was there and he was just waiting on the ball. And it finally came down, and then by the time it came down, a Giants defender got in there and knocked it away. So, I mean, Brady can pound his helmet all he wants, but some of this is on him. I don't know, like if he and Antonio Brown just have like, if you've ever seen the movie Step Brothers, with Will Ferrell and what's the other guy's name? I can't ever think of
Ridley.
Anyway, John,
is it John C. Ridley?
Yeah. Riley, maybe. Yeah.
Riley, John C. Riley.
Yeah. Like I'm just like, so AB is apparently living at Tom Brady's house, just like he was for a while when Brady brought him to New England, because he just can't trust him to not, like go set an ice cream truck on fire or something, And so he's got him at his house, and I'm just imagining like all these wacky scenarios. Like this needs to be, how is this not a reality TV show where they're just like out throwing the ball in the backyard, and then Tom accidentally hits him in the face with it, and then he's like trying to fight Tom, and and then Giselle has to like separate them, and they have like some little mock court where Tom's children are hearing the case as the attorneys and the judge. And this is something that we need in 2020.
Hey, I mean, Terry Bradshaw's got his own show on E! They could do a double feature and just go back to back.
Right. Right. Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, I think it's up in the air. Rain Normandy says AB for Chubb. Thanks for being in the chat, man, and checking out our video podcast. Yeah, I like Chubb better in that deal. I don't know where you fall on it. What do you guys think?
If you're just getting Chubb straight up for Antonio Brown, that's a huge yes from me, because I mean, we've seen the Bucs before. Brady can air it out, but he can also give it to Rojo and Fournette for 100 yards a game. Like, this is a team that can
right now
or throw all over you. Granted, the Bucs just for some reason collapse against the Giants, I guess, because Tom Brady's weakness his entire career has been the New York Giants. So I don't know if that plays into it at all. But if you're getting Chubb, I'd much rather get a consistent number one running back over Antonio Brown, who could do great, but also at the end of the day, especially towards playoffs, could be competing with Evans and Miller and Godwin and Gronk and Howard and Rojo and Fournette. If I'm getting Chubb, the number one back in Cleveland, on a running football team that desperately needs him now that Odell's gone, I'd rather take Nick Chubb. And we talk all the time about the premium on running backs. I think if you're able to get AB for Chubb straight up, I think that's a great deal. Also, I love your profile picture of the inflatable Tyrannosaurus Rex. That's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, Evans just had a big play.
He did. Well, it was, it wasn't a huge play, but he's gotten me within like 3.7 points or something. So it's within.
He is the guy who gets 2 red zone targets for 2 touchdowns and 2 yards.
Yeah,
so
you got this.
We'll see. Nothing is guaranteed. They're at the 3. They need a short touchdown pass to Evans. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, I think the thing is, Chubb has been out. They were saying it was a 6-week injury. I don't think we've gotten an update lately, but this was his 4th week out. They have a bye next week, so then he's probably not going to be ready for that Houston game. It's probably going to be week 11 against Philly. But yeah, I mean, you don't know what Antonio Brown. What in the world? Oh, okay. I guess Rob Gronkowski got that touchdown. He got it knocked out of his hand afterward. Anyway, you don't know what. You think AB is going to do well, but assuming Chubb comes back week 11 or so, I mean, you've got a stud running back. I would do that deal.
Yeah. And to your point here about Gronkowski's touchdown, And somebody was talking about later on in the chat, what do I do about Kittle? Yeah, Len says,
they did take it away apparently. Or let's see, maybe they're going for 2. No, they're going for 2. My bad.
They're going for 2. Gronkowski is still on the waiver wire in some places. I think he's only like 60% rostered.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a good waiver wire pickup for tomorrow night?
Oh yeah, I mean Gronk is a great. If he's still out there, like I've got him in some leagues. Unfortunately, I don't think he's available. Like he's taken an all. He's actually 91% rostered now in mine. Yeah, but because ever since OJ Howard went down, he's just turned it on. He had 16 points in week 6, 14 in week 7. Like now he's almost up to 10 for this game. So he's going to be in double digits in 3 straight games. Brady's looking for him in the red zone. I think rest of season, he might be like tight end number 2 or something. You know, I mean, Kittle's gone. Yeah. Mark Andrews is boom or bust every week.
He was somebody we told people to go pick up. I think it was you in particular, maybe AJ. And apropos to the question here by Rain, this just in, CBS Sports says Browns Nick Chubb on track to be back for week 10. So
nice.
Very nice.
So do that deal. AB for Chubb if somebody will give you that. If somebody will give you Chubb.
Sure. Okay, need a little trade feedback here, please. PPR, should I trade away Montgomery for Zeke? My other RBs are Kamara. Ooh, nice. Melvin Gordon. Ooh, not nice. I'm 4-4, riding a 2-game losing streak. Strong wide receiver core with Thielen and Kupp. And God, I don't know if that's strong. T. Higgins.
It's like strong in theory, but because of game script and injuries, it's a little iffy.
Yeah, let's just take a moment to appreciate the fact that we're in week 8 debating the merits of whether or not you should trade David Montgomery to get Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
I say absolutely not. I wouldn't trade away Montgomery for Elliott, but I can see an argument for it. And do we get that argument from you, Jared?
I think it's hard for me to do it just based on the schedule because they're almost now based on circumstances the same player. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott has for 3 straight games delivered 8 points, 5.6 points, and 7.8 points. Is it really going to get better for him?
Hard to tell.
I don't know. Andy Dalton has looked bad. Maybe when Andy Dalton has some more time, but that the rest of that schedule for him is Pittsburgh, a bye week, Minnesota, Washington, Baltimore. He gets Cincinnati, but then he finishes up with San Francisco and Philadelphia. That is a rough schedule. And then you've got David Montgomery, by contrast, who gets Tennessee, Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit, Houston, Minnesota, Jacksonville. That's a pretty good schedule. So, I mean, I think you're going to be getting, solid points. I think Montgomery is going to be in double digits for you every week. And I think he's going to be due to get, some touchdowns. He's had 1 rushing touchdown. And Zeke, man, I don't know. I mean, unless Dalton just somehow finds a way to turn it on, I don't know.
I don't know. What do you think as the resident Bears fan?
Yeah.
What do you think, AJ?
So you guys know, yes, I'm a Bears fan, but I've also probably been the biggest proponent of how atrocious our running game is. We were 32nd in the league in rushing entering Sunday night, and I still think we're not good at running the football now, especially since we lost Bobby Massey, who was probably the most consistent man in the offensive line next to Whitehair to injury. And I don't know. I think the only thing is that Montgomery has like a floor of 8 and a ceiling of like almost 17. So he's going to be consistent, hanging around that 10, 11 point mark almost every single week. And yeah, his schedule is great. We definitely know that. And Zeke, I don't know what's up with him. I was on the podcast on Saturday saying I think he'll find his groove, but after last week, I don't know. Because Dallas is a mess, and his schedule's even messier, and the play calling's a mess, and Dallas is just in turmoil. This is probably the worst Dallas team we've almost ever seen in decades.
Yeah.
So
I think I cursed them.
I have no idea what to think about Zeke, and as much as I want to say yes, absolutely, trade for one of the most talented running backs in football for a guy who has a passive, weak offensive line, but I don't know if I can. Montgomery's got the schedule, he's getting the production, and he's a pass catcher, and Zeke just hasn't done anything in the last 4 weeks. I can't believe I'm saying this, but as of right now, I would not trade David Montgomery for Ezekiel Elliott.
Wow.
I can't believe I just said that.
And I would try to see, I mean, maybe you've explored every other option in the league, but I would take a shot at getting someone else, because I think, like AJ said, like, I think Montgomery's upside is still pretty limited. Like he's going to be in that, like, 10 to, like, maybe you hope he gets a touchdown on top of those 10 or 11 points and gets you up to 17 or something. But I would see if you couldn't get someone better for Zeke, hoping that someone is buying based on the name and his production earlier in the year, and thinking that, oh, I'm going to get a deal, I'm going to buy low on him. So I would shop him around and see if you could get someone better for him.
He's got Montgomery, I think, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I read this. I'm sorry.
So did Montgomery have a big game this week? I haven't seen I didn't watch the game. Sorry, my chair. Did he have a decent game? I don't think he did.
He had a decent game for a Montgomery game that we're talking about. I think he got 11 points. I think he had 11 points against the Saints defense that has been top 10 against the run. Like, that's the thing that encourages me the most, because the rest of the year we were terrible running the football, but we were able to run on the Saints, and that encourages me a little bit.
Yeah, but that's all they did the whole game was run. I mean, they had a couple long
Trubisky
ones.
Had a couple nice throws. Foles had a couple nice throws. Foles had a couple nice deep throws. Two to Robinson, one to Mooney.
He says with Lamar soon to be activated with the Bears, you see them splitting carries?
Not yet. Not splitting. Lamar might vulture a couple carries every now and then, but he ain't gonna split it.
Lamar might not even see the field. Maybe he will. Yeah,
we're really reaching back to when Lamar Miller was relevant. I mean, like, it's been a while. Like, Lamar Miller is almost kind of like the Josh Gordon of running backs, where like every year people are like, oh, Josh Gordon, like it's been a long time since he actually did anything, so I have a hard time imagining that Lamar is going to be a big factor there.
Well, folks, it's that time of night. We have the antagonist in our chat, Jonathan Buster, and I guess in relation to my loving Ayuk and his flips, he says, I hope he flips on your face.
Did you come up with that in preschool?
he sent me a trade that I haven't even responded to, and probably won't, of Rashad Penny for James Robinson. Basically just mad that I still mad that I got AJ Brown, he thought, for too cheap. So
Len Boy says, yo, what's up, Len Boy? Glad to have you in the chat watching us and stuff. I just saw done for the season, and as Jared said, he may come back for the playoffs. Kittle's a tough dude, and he's got some of that Wolverine blood, may be able to heal up.
That's what makes it hard to know what to do with him, because you don't there's so many players that I could use. Like, I think this week on teams, I had like 5 guys that I could have put in IR, And so you don't really want to take up a spot with a guy who may be done for the year, but at the same time, like if you make the playoffs and you could get Kittle back for the playoffs, you don't want to not have him, and then you also don't want to have someone using him against you. So that's a tough spot when it's like right at the 8-week mark, knowing like, oh, what if he comes back a week early? What if he comes back 2 weeks early? So I don't know.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, AJ?
Stick him in your IR. He's worth it. I mean, there's not many other, and I mean, like even comparing him to a lot of the other guys that are injured, like I mean, is there anyone who could match the production of Kittle at all? If possible, I'd stick him on your IR, especially in a lot of leagues they do 2 IRs now because of everything. So yeah, I'd just stick him on your IR and hope for the best in that case.
Jonathan Buster just reminded me. I was talking about Hines, not Ayuk. So sorry, Jonathan Buster. Why don't you put it in the chat where everybody can see these awful names that you call me? I'm wounded. He's a bully. All right. Len Boy says, so do we have a game? Do we have a game update?
It's $15-14. It's almost the end of the third quarter. They scored on that Brady to Gronkowski 3-yard touchdown pass, and then well, actually the Giants. Apparently, my TV feed is behind the internet feed because I just got the update that Graham Gano kicked a 33-yard field goal just as he's lining up to even kick it. So my TV feed is like 20 plus seconds behind the internet feed. So now the Giants are back on top by 2 with basically like 13 seconds left in the third quarter or something.
Nice. All right. Well, so he isn't really, I mean, he has been sort of targeting Evans. I've been watching a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, Evans, he needs probably like 3 more. Probably needs like 3 more catches. I don't know if he's going to get there unless he catches a big one or a touchdown.
Well, I mean, they're only in the first half, right?
No, this is the end of the third quarter.
Oh, sorry, I'm way behind. Len Boy says defense finally got to stop. I need to go fast forward to the good parts of the game. I'm behind. Oh, yeah. I typically, one of the best ways, if you don't have Game Pass, and actually I forget every year to unsubscribe to Game Pass. They keep charging my credit card, but and I don't ever use it very much. You guys can use it if you want, but the NFL YouTube channel has some great, like they just hit the main offensive beats for each game. It's great. If you go through and watch each game matchup within half an hour to an hour, you can be caught up.
Yeah.
Let's see. Len Boy says, again, I lost Kittle. I need help. Yeah. Okay. I thought it was Len who's talking about that.
Yeah,
we were talking before maybe at the beginning how you can go and pick up who was it for the Washington? You can pick up
Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas.
Yeah, there's some guys out there. If you're lucky, maybe Hayden Hurst is available in your league. He's 83% owned. So I mean, he's owned in most, but 83%. He's out there in a few of mine. Yeah, beyond that, it starts getting kind of.
He says, "What about Mo Alley Cox? Would you?"
No, and Jared, you're the Colts guy on that, but Mo Alley or Trey Burton, they're splitting targets now. I loved Burton when Mo Alley was out because he put up I think like 20 points, then 19 points in back-to-back games. And even in those games, Adam Shaheen was getting targets. And even in last week's game, he scored a touchdown on a run, which makes absolutely no sense to me. I like them both individually, but on the same team, it might as well be a dart throw about which one of them is going to get 8 and which one of them is going to get 4.
Yeah, the Colts just don't have a receiver who's reliable. They're spreading the ball around so much, and they love to throw to the running backs. I mean, Phillip Rivers has actually had back-to-back good games. This week he had 262 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, granted, those games have been against the Bengals and the Lions. So, take that with a grain of salt. At least, though, Rivers has shown that he could be, you're still rolling the dice there, but, like a serviceable streamer against bad teams. But, he's spreading the ball around to so many people. And, I mean, there's just nobody, unless Cox or Burton is out, there's really no one in that passing game that you can rely on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we're winding down here on a Monday night. We got a game going. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? I'm not live with y'all. Am I not live with y'all? Chat. Oh, sorry. We don't go with as soon as you put it in the chat. Sometimes we'll be talking about somebody else's.
There's a 10-second delay, so it'll upload to YouTube from our streams. There's a little bit of a time gap in between there. So if there's any disconnect, that's why.
What do you say? I have that, and when you was talking about Gronk, I said someone has him. Somebody has. Oh, I see. Okay. Got you. Yeah. Most people have Gronk. I think one area you could go. A sneaky ad, maybe. How's Brait doing tonight?
I don't know that I picked him up that first week where OJ Howard went down, thinking he might do something. Basically, he's getting 1 target per game though, so he's pretty well worthless.
Yeah, well, let's talk about, since we're down to the end of the chat, let's talk about waiver wire, because there's going to be a lot of questions about who to pick up. We were talking about Logan Thomas, Len Boy. I think both of us were saying might be able to go and pick up Logan Thomas on the waiver wire. I see him pretty much everywhere. I think he's my replacement for Kittle, just as a stopgap. But that's just to kind of figure out what to do going forward. When it comes to tight end, it looks like it's going to have to be a trade that saves you. Schultz, I mean, he's on the very public dumpster fire of the Dallas Cowboys. Jordan Reed is going to be sharing with Dwelly. Dwelly is going to be sharing with Jordan Reed.
So a couple of guys I would say like that are long shots. Like I mentioned, Hayden Hurst. He's 83% owned. He's out there in about he's only available in 17% overall. He's available in about 25% of mine overall. So, I mean, a 1 in 4 chance is not bad. And the same thing actually with Jared Cook. He's 83. He's 83% owned. He's owned in more of my leagues, but 83% owned overall. He's been in double figures 3 straight games. But if assuming both of those are taken, I'd say a guy that you could potentially look at who was looked like he was starting to come on before he got hurt. Is Austin Hooper. He's only 39% owned, and he had 3 straight weeks of like 11.9, 8.2, and 7.7. He had at least 5 catches, usually getting 50 plus yards. Then he got hurt. Next week is their bye week, and then Stefanski, their head coach, said that he will definitely be ready for week 10 against the Texans. So you would just need a plug-in for 1 week, and then you could get him. So like I said, he was already starting to come on anyway. OBJ is now gone. So I think Hooper could be a good plug in there.
And if you need one for this week, I think Eric Ebron could be interesting. He's only owned in 45% of leagues, and he's definitely boom or bust, but he's been getting the targets, and especially the red zone targets in the past couple of weeks. And Big Ben likes throwing to his tight ends. And compared to a lot of other people, the 3 Colts tight ends, like you guys said, Ross Dwelly could be interesting, but he'll be on a short week on Thursday. So a little bit iffy there. And after that, there isn't really anyone else. Yeah, I think, like you said, Jared, what's the guy's name for the Browns? I completely
Hooper, Austin Hooper.
Yes, thank you. Hooper, Hurst, and Ebron also, I think, are good.
All right. Yeah, and he says most of the guys we were talking about before are taken. My super sleeper is going to be Albert Okwelaguma Babumba, whatever his name is. Okwela Gunaboom. I can't.
Okay. Yeah.
Bunam. He actually has been looked at quite a bit by Locke, and he only had 1 target. He had a reception for 9 yards, but he had a touchdown, and he's been kind of a red zone-ish option. He's going to play Atlanta next week. Atlanta seems to really, I think they're number 1 easiest team against tight ends. Now you've got what's his name, Fant, coming back, but this guy went to school with Locke. I think they've already got a connection. Fant could vulture some targets, but I think he could get you a touchdown at least. Maybe a couple yards and a catch or 2. But you're at the bottom of the barrel. We're talking about people that might, give you a hope and a smile.
Yeah, but like with Albert, as much as I like him, that's kind of the equivalent of getting like Jay Sternberger. Like he might get a catch for a touchdown, but that's like second. Like typically with tight ends, you at least want to get a guy who's starting. Right, you at least want to get a first-string tight end, so at least he has a chance of getting a red zone target or whatever.
Well, do we know for sure if Fant is coming back this week?
Yes, he was back this week. He was he did pretty solid this week.
Well, there you go. If Fant's on the waiver wire, that'd be a good one. Just look for him, but I doubt he is. Okay, so that's waiver wire for tight ends. Do you guys have any good waiver wire pickups for running back and wide receiver? My running back that I would propose is, I hate to go back to this but Josh Kelly is somebody who I think I've been dropping, but I think I may try to go get, because he had quite a lot of production this last week. And they have they have Las Vegas in week 9. Maybe a nice little opportunity there for Josh. And then you could always go with the Colts, but it's hard for me. I love Nyheim Hines, but it's hard to tell who's going to get the carries over there. What do you guys think?
You want to take this, AJ?
First? Sure. So at running back is always iffy, and it's always going to be iffy. If Devonta Freeman's out another week, Gallman could be interesting. He's playing Washington, which is tough, but he hasn't done terribly against Tampa tonight. So that could be an interesting play. I see what you're saying about Kelly, and I think Wilkins and Hines, as much as I like them, they're playing Baltimore, and that's not something.
Yeah, but you can't pull them. You can't get them both, though. Who would you?
If I had to choose between the two of them, I would go Wilkins, because I think he's the workhorse back. Hines is the pass catcher, and I'm not sure how I'm feeling about Phillip Rivers under pressure from the incredible Ravens front 7. So that one's definitely the iffiest position for me. At wide receiver, if Corey Davis, he's not owned in over 50% of leagues. If you're in a wide receiver spot, I think he should be your number 1 pickup. Absolutely. Other than that, wide receiver is really kind of a mess. Marvin Hall or Marvin Jones Jr. in deeper leagues could be a dart throw, maybe, simply because Detroit's running out of targets to throw to. And then your guy, Judah, that you brought up, Darnell Mooney caught one deep ball and got 5 catches last week. So that's another dart throw. Wide receivers starting to become more and more barren, I should say, at the position.
Yes.
But I think that's definitely my big one. Is Corey Davis should be everybody's number one.
Yeah, I think those are two good little gems there. Do you got any, Jared?
Yeah, there's kind of like a cluster of guys at running back who are all in sort of this like 55-ish% owned that you could probably pick up. Justin Jackson, 2 of the last 3 games, he's been in double figures, and 17 carries for 89 yards against Denver.
Nice.
Is pretty good. 15.7 points. We don't know when Austin Eckler's coming back, but I think you're going to get Justin Jackson for at least a couple more weeks. You mentioned Wilkins. Zach Moss, who I think is a little bit harder to trust, but there again, 55% owned. Had his most carries of the season, 14 for 81, and he had 2 touchdowns. So he's clearly, I guess, the goal line back there in Buffalo for however much, a running back is going to get used at the goal line instead of Josh Allen. And then our guy, Judah's guy, Damian Harris, is 47% owned, so a little bit better. And he had 16 carries for 102 yards and a touchdown. All those guys, it's kind of, they're shaky situations. You don't know week to week exactly what you're going to get. But, we saw this week with even a guy that, we were thinking was going to break out or we thought a couple of weeks ago after week 6 against Jacksonville that the DeAndre Swift takeover had started. He had 14 carries for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. Well, against Atlanta, then that went down to 9 carries for 27 and a touchdown. He had some receiving yards, so he got up in double figures. And then against Indy, he had 6 carries for 1 yard. And then his receiving yards got him up to 3.8 points. So, I know those guys are not the most trustworthy, but I mean, even guys that are on your roster like Swift, like Jonathan Taylor, a lot of these other guys, you just, you don't know what you're going to get from them week to week either. So
what he says, Len Boy says, should I drop Josh Kelly? No, I did drop him and I regret it. He got a lot of work this last week.
I think you're thinking of Jackson.
Yeah, Kelly only got like 6 or 7 carries this week, and 1 target.
To me, 6 or 7 carries is not worth dropping.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're in a deeper league, I don't like to drop any running back who's like a 1B running back. Yeah,
because there's nobody else. Jackson gets hurt. He's the main guy, and he did pretty well with what I guess. I was watching the game, and he did pretty well with what he did. He's not. I just watched Jackson. He looks a little spazzy. Have you watched the games? He looks spazzy when he runs.
I don't know.
What do you guys think about DJ Dallas? My man,
solid.
DJ Dallas did solid against a solid defense.
I mean, unless, that was just kind of like a perfect storm of, Carson being hurt, Carlos Hyde being hurt. Like, I can't imagine that DJ Dallas is going to be more than like a footnote of like, oh man, remember that great week that DJ Dallas had? Like unless those injuries linger or something, I don't think like he showed. I mean, he had 20 points. That's great, but let's also like pay attention to how he got those. I mean, he had 18 carries for 41 yards. He was getting a little over 2 yards per carry. He did have, some receptions, but again, he had 5 receptions, only 17 yards and a touchdown. Basically, I mean, those 2 touchdowns saved him and gave him a great day, but it's not like he was some revelation and he's earned a bigger role in the Seahawks backfield. I don't think.
I don't know. That was a pretty good performance against a really tough defense.
Mhm.
I don't know that Carson would have done much better against that defense. But who knows? I mean, Carson's always banged up. I have no hope in Homer. No hope in Homer. Maybe Carlos Hyde comes back.
He's been worse in terms of health than Carson this year. He's not
that's
questionable every week. He's doubtful every week.
Yeah, that's true. So I think DJ Dallas would be a good pickup. I'm not saying go out and depend on him as your RB2, but he may be. I picked him up in a couple of leagues, and I'm excited to see what he does. The other thing that we didn't talk about in the news was Jamal, not Jonathan, Williams having COVID. Or no, I'm sorry. No, it was Dylan.
AJ Dillon, yeah.
AJ Dillon having COVID, and Jamal may be exposed to it, maybe out. Him and
Aaron.
who is Aaron Jones wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But we don't know if he's coming back. And Tyler Irvin, would he be somebody to pick up? It says he's questionable. I don't know what that means. How is somebody questionable?
I think this might be one of those situations where just because it's there, like everyone else is down, I think what I was talking about earlier, just because the backfield is open doesn't mean you should go get them. Like we just talked about,
I agree with that.
Dallas, if Hyde and Homer and Carson could be out another week because they're all injury riddled. J.K. Dobbins could still be available in some leagues. Maybe there's still a 30% chance he's on your waiver wire. I think he's a better pickup for sure this week.
Not on my waiver wire.
I mean, Damian Harris, he's available in over 50% of leagues. So I think this is one of those situations where just because you can pick up the next man up doesn't mean you should.
And somebody else I didn't mention, I didn't realize how much he was still available because he's taken in the vast majority of my leagues. But he's only 30% rostered is Gus Edwards, who
Gus Bus.
He, had 87. I mean, he and Dobbins both had great games.
Yeah.
I saw someone talking about the fact that maybe it was just, watching a catch in that Tampa game. But it's like maybe it's a one-off, but like the Ravens backfield really probably looked and did better just with Gus and Dobbins than it did with mixing Ingram in there. And there's probably something to be said for that. I would just imagine that it's very difficult to get into any kind of rhythm when there's three guys that are consistently mixing in and out, plus Lamar running the ball, So it just seems like they would be better off, kind of really concentrating down to more of a couple of them,
Yeah, Gus Bus would be a decent pickup. What about if you're looking for you just had you've got somebody on bye, who would you play at quarterback? Maybe you were depending on, I don't know, who's on bye this week.
I think you have Wentz on a bye.
Wentz.
It's going to be Goff, Burrow, Wentz, and Mayfield.
Yeah, Mayfield. Some people were playing Mayfield. Would you go back? Would you go to the well with Bridgewater? A lot of people went with him this week, got burnt because it was the free space Atlanta.
Thursday night.
But they
trust it.
They're going to be playing KC next week. Would you fire up some Bridgewater?
I personally probably would not. I think just looking at who's out there, who's likely to be out there, it is a tough week for streaming because guys are on a bye and other guys just don't have good matchups. I think I would be inclined to, maybe maybe a good option would be Derek Carr, who was thought to be a good streaming option this past week, but I didn't play him in any leagues because we talked about that wind. I don't know how much that ultimately ended up affecting the game, but it was a low scoring game. It was 16-6 when he had otherwise been, that was his worst game of the season. He had 3 straight where he was over 20 points. He's got the Chargers this week who, have not been wait, let's see. No, this is still on
Chargers.
Yeah, but this is still like I was trying to look at like how many points they had given up to quarterbacks overall. I guess let's see. They've given up
quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't think they've been. Yeah. Oh, so they've actually given up the 3rd most. So so I would expect sort of a bounce back game from Carr. It's in Los Angeles, so I would assume they're going to have pretty good weather. It's against a team that has not been good against the pass, 3rd worst against quarterbacks, and I think he'll have a bounce back game. So, given the options out there, Carr would probably be my guy. If he's taken, maybe you could look. Well, I hate to go with Stafford now that Galladay's out. Stafford's been pretty solid lately, but missing Galladay does make it harder to recommend him.
If you're a little iffy on him, I'll go out and recommend him. I've owned him all year in Rotohackers, and with the exception of one game, he's never gotten under 17. Which in a year where Newton had bombed all of a sudden, Lamar's been inconsistent, I'll absolutely take that. And Galladay didn't get a catch, and Stafford still made it out with 23 points. So I'll pull one for my boy Matthew Stafford, especially going up against a Minnesota defense that, actually locked up Aaron Rodgers this week, but I don't know if that was just the Packers not knowing what to do when they're playing from behind, or if Minnesota's defense is actually legit. So I actually don't feel that bad about Stafford. He is owned in 68% of leagues, so that is a little bit iffy on whether he'll be there or not. But one guy who really kind of burned me early, if you want to ride that high, if you want to take a risk on it, Drew Lock got 20 points last week, and he gets Atlanta.
Oh, Mike Evans just had an 8-yard touchdown, so that got me what I needed. So.
Let's go!
Yes!
Hopefully, if it's not overturned. Let's see. I'm looking here. It looks like he's in. Hopefully, the ball didn't move. I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
Nice.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt. So one other guy I would say is possibly Cam. Cam's only 63% owned, and they do get the Jets. So Cam's been a pretty big dice roll. It's a shallow pool of candidates. So if Carr's not available, like Cam might be the guy. I don't know.
Yeah. And he's is Jonathan Tay still relevant? Well, I don't know who that is.
Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, Jonathan Taylor. Oh, yeah, I think he's still relevant. I just wouldn't depend on him as your like RB1 or even 2. He's a good flex. I think he's a solid flex. He could go off,
I think if he gets back to 100%, he'll be good. Like you said, Frank Reich said he'd been dealing with ankle issues, and for any running back, that's tough to overcome. So if he gets back to 100%, then I feel more comfortable with him. Is he relevant? Sure, but in the near future, this next week or two, maybe not.
I'm just skeptical. Ankle issues. It sounds like a saving face type thing because he never was on the injury report. He's still not in the injury report. Reich
is very bad to. Well, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you're a fantasy manager. Reich is very bad to guard his players and be like, well, Phillip Rivers, yeah, sure, he only threw for 18 yards and 9 interceptions, but there was a little bit of wind, even though like the roof was closed. And I mean, he just like comes up. he's a nice guy and he likes to defend his players, but it makes it difficult to know like, okay, what really is the deal here,
Yeah. Maybe he did have a little bit of Jonathan Tate ankle. Do we have any good streaming defenses for this week? You said earlier the Miami pick. I think that's brilliant because they are on most of my waiver wires. I'm going to go out and try to at least get them in a couple of leagues. Do you have anybody else? I think Miami, that's smash. AJ, any ideas for a good defense?
Well, I don't know if Miami's so much a smash as they are a decent play because they are going up against Arizona, and Kyler Murray is tough to contain. Chase Edmonds is also really good. And yeah, they've been great in their last three, but they went up against a messed up 49ers team, the Jets, and then the Rams. And I don't know what's up with them. They're an enigma to me. But I think that Houston could be interesting. Arizona's defense always will give you a consistent 7. So that's always fine. Tennessee, if they're still out there, less than 50% owned, they get Chicago. And while they haven't been great recently, they've more been beat through the air than they have been on the ground. I mean, who have they played recently? Deshaun Watson. They got beat by Ben Roethlisberger in the first half, and they got beat by Joe Burrow. I don't think Nick Foles is going to scare them nearly as much as those previous 3 quarterbacks. So they could also be a decent, 6-point defensive play. It's hard to tell with a lot of these teams who's going to blow up for 30 points because you don't know which defense is just going to pick 6 somebody at a random time.
Yeah, and I'll say like I'm talking about Miami as like a rest of the season play, not specifically. I mean, I picked them up for this week because I thought they could have a good game against Jared Goff and the Rams. But they're not like an every week, like AJ said, I don't like the Cardinals matchup. I actually probably like he said, the Cardinals defense better against Tua than I do the Miami defense against Kyler. So the Cardinals defense, apart from a weird game at Carolina, has been, very solid, like he said, about giving you usually like around 7 points. But Tua didn't show a lot last week.
Yeah, did you guys watch anything? Like how are we feeling about Tua at this point?
I didn't get to see much of it, but I mean, they were fortunate with that defense that he didn't have to do too much. But keep in mind, he passed the ball 22 times. He only completed 12, 93 yards. So that's not like, I mean, we'll see. Maybe it was just first game jitters, but that's not ideal starting out. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, really appreciate having you in the chat, Kevin Giovanni. And hey, we got Anthony in the chat. What's up, Anthony? With Jamal Williams playing as well as he has, will it become more of a timeshare? It's always been a timeshare in Green Bay, whereby lowering the fantasy value. Look, Aaron Jones, actually, who you should be more worried about is Adams. When Adams is out is when Aaron Jones goes off. And I used to think it's because he got a lot of passing downs, but it's just, I think they play differently when Devontae Adams is out. And they bring Jamal Williams in for at least 10 to 12 snaps every game, regardless of Aaron Jones being hurt or not. So, but that's what I think. What do you guys think? What's the whole thing on me for? Let's keep.
You're the Packers guy. I mean, you should talk about your own team, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah, I agree. I don't. I mean, we saw some last year where Williams came in for Jones when Jones was out, and I think it was last year. And they kind of went. Or maybe I've got that reversed. Maybe it was Williams being out and Jones getting more of the load. Either way, when they're both in there, Jamal's pretty consistently going to get his carries, but I think they're just kind of committed to Jones as the main guy, more of like a 2-1 split, maybe not quite 2-1. And sometimes it depends on, the game scenario, like that Falcons game flow. And, like that Falcons game, they tended to, I think, rotate them a little bit more because they were, putting more emphasis on the running game. So like that game, Jones had 15 carries for 71 yards. And then Jamal Williams had, it was still about 2-1. He had 8 carries for 10 yards. So I think it's still going to stay more or less 2-1. Maybe it slides to a 60-40 split if Jones is still kind of banged up or something. I think Jones' health would dictate it more than Jamal Williams really kind of them seeing something different than before. I think those roles are pretty well established unless Jones is still kind of banged up.
Yeah, completely agreed.
Amen and amen. Okay, PPR. I have the number 2 waiver pick. Is it worth taking a shot for Jordan Wilkins? Do you see rest of the season upside with this guy? Well, one of the difficult things is they play. Their next game is against a hungry and frustrated Ravens team. I probably wouldn't play any of the Colts running backs against those guys. I mean, if I could avoid it. What do you guys think? Do you think Wilkins can do anything against that Ravens team? And then after the Ravens, who they got? They got
it gets
Tennessee.
A lot easier after that.
Well, but Tennessee's not that easy.
Yeah, but they're not great either.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but it's just like Wilkins is not elite. It's not like,
but also keep in mind that we're getting to the point where the running back waiver wire is either a dart throw or
that is
please
true.
Help, Gus Edwards.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I would
I'd
say
rather have Gus Edwards.
I think I can make mine short and say I think it depends on your situation, how desperate you are right now. Again, like if you're in pretty good shape, I would probably hold it. And the way injuries are happening this year, in a week or two, you might have, a better option out there. I don't know. I mean, I think because Wilkins, because Taylor isn't down with some injury or something, I don't know. It's hard for me to, and with Hines getting as much action as he sometimes gets, the fact that they have like Trey Burton running in touchandowns, it's hard to trust it. If you're desperate and you need to just take a dice roll because you're 3-5 or something and you just can't afford to lose more games, then maybe go ahead and do it. But otherwise I would probably hold it and try to get a better one. But I mean, AJ makes a good point. Like you're getting down to the point of the season where like how much is really going to be out there the rest of the way going forward. And it's kind of tough because you have the second priority where if there really is a home run guy out there, the number 1 guy is probably going to get him. So it is kind of complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think have rest of the season upside, but I think it all depends on whether Taylor, what his situation is. If this is actually a season-long issue and they're going to hold him out for a while, I think Wilkins could be really good because the second half schedule is very, very, very nice, which includes Houston, Las Vegas, and Houston again, 2 of the worst defenses against the run. And I think that he could be really, really good, but it all depends on Taylor. If they're going to rest him for a couple weeks and he comes back at 100%, I don't think Wilkins is going to do that great. But if Taylor is going to have lasting problems the entire year and they sit him out, I think that he could be a nice play. I think I like Hines over him this week because I feel like Rivers is going to have to dump it off a lot more to one of the best pass-catching running backs in football than they are going to be running it between and outside the tackle. So I like Hines more this week, and Wilkins I like for the season if Jonathan Taylor stays out.
Well, and here's something worth noting that I didn't read today. I guess it just came out today, but it says that Reich added that Taylor's ankle injury didn't come up until after the game. So they didn't pull him because he had an ankle injury. Like that was like after the fact, I guess maybe that something that Taylor mentioned or something like that. So, I mean that kind of now that kind of, you know, sways me a little bit more to being like, well, maybe you should go ahead and take a shot on Jonathan Wilkins because the Colts running game is just not, you know, has just not really
Stagnated.
been what it should be with that offensive line, even with the running game really needing to carry the offense. You know, I mean, it should have been more than what it is. And the Colts are a contender, you know, this year. I mean, they're up to 5-2.
Yeah.
You
Which
know,
is crazy.
right. So they can't just keep plugging away trying to get their rookie going. Like they're eventually, and this may be the point, they're eventually going to have to go to the guy that's getting it done. And, you know, there's no guarantee that Wilkins is going to be able to keep doing that. But I mean, you look at some of what he did last year and he did, you know, show some promise. Like, you know, the last game of the season, I can't remember the circumstances if Mac got hurt during the game or what happened. And this was Carolina's horrible run defense. But, you know, Wilkins had 9 carries for 84 yards and a touchdown. So, you know, I don't know. He could potentially be a guy that's a factor.
All right, well, we got to go, but it's fitting that we end with a little word from our antagonist, a Jonathan Taylor truther, actually. He's expecting fireworks tomorrow. Oh, are you expecting fireworks tomorrow at the deadline? I'm hoping for Fitzmagic landing with Dallas or Fuller to GB. That, you know, I think Fitzmagic going with Dallas would really help the NFL not have the sad state of affairs that is the Cowboys right now. But I don't. And then Fuller to GB. I would love that.
They need him.
But we'll see. I heard they're asking a lot for Fuller, so I don't know really what GB has to offer.
If Bill O'Brien was still there, I'm sure he'd give him and a first-round pick away to get A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, or not even A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon's too young with too much upside. You know, he would have to get. I don't know what he would have to get.
Brian,
like Jamal Williams.
Yeah, right. I actually haven't really read up on any rumors. That is interesting that I hadn't really thought about Fitzmagic. I mean, you know, Dallas needs something, and Jerry Jones. I don't know. I don't know what Jerry Jones' plan is. Does he want to tank and try to get a good quarterback, or because if he does, like, he doesn't have to do anything, you know, like he's probably not going to have to go out of his way to tank. Like he can just let this team play as it is. Or is that Jones competitive fire going to be like, nah, we can win the Super Bowl this year, you know? So, I don't know. That's my little old Texan. That's my little old Texan accent. I didn't want to go over the top with it. You know, I just thought,
it had a good Texan flair to it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Fitzmagic in Dallas would be interesting though, because like right now, you know, Amari Cooper, I was playing against Amari in some leagues, and he had 1 catch for 5 yards. So, that's Dallas. Dallas has gone from fantasy gold mine of Dak, Zeke, Amari, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz to a certain extent, to wasteland where you cannot trust any of them.
Unfortunately, our 1 season of Dalton Texas Ranger was short and not very good.
I don't know. We may see 2.0 next
the reboot.
The reboot. Oh god!
And we do get we are getting a Walker Texas Ranger reboot. So so it could be we'll get a Dalton Texas Ranger Reboot.
All right.
Oh, interesting. All right, guys. Well, unless there's anything else, I gotta go. It's late.
Same.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Sorry we won't be on tomorrow night. But I am always on. You will have access to my phone if you get on, and I left a link in the chat, the Discord, and as people can attest to, Anthony, if you're still in the chat, let people know. Other people are on there. AJ, you're on there. I answer questions, and we put news all the time. So, anyways, glad to talk to all of you guys, and of course, you guys have a wonderful night, and good luck tomorrow. As far as what is it? What do you always say, Jared?
It's called
the strangest.
Waivers. Good luck tomorrow as far as waivers.
No. I'm talking about the.
I know what you're talking about. No. Good luck. Good luck to America tomorrow, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see Saturday. If we have to pause like the war zone or something in order to, maybe they can be a ceasefire in order to come back with fantasy football or something. Maybe that'll be the rules of it. Is that, college football and NFL, we, lay down arms. I don't know. We'll see. What's going to happen.
Oh, Lord forbid. Okay.
I laugh to keep from crying. So, yeah.
Amen. All right. Well, let us go to the Waverwire for some solace. Oh, Anthony says Discord is awesome. Sign up, everybody. He loves it. Okay. All right. Well, goodbye, everybody, and we will see you in the future.